Alright guys, what's up and welcome to my Wiimote settings video. Now, for those of you who have been following me for a while, you would know that about a month ago I had this video up on my channel. This is actually a different one. I'm redoing it because that one there went for so long. It was so boring. It had some incorrect information in it even. And um, and I just talked about stuff that was kind of irrelevant. So this one here is going to be cut short. I don't want to spend too much time on the intro and I want to sort of breeze through it. But basically, a lot of people try the Wiimote and they don't like it, and so then they go back to the dual analog sticks, and they say, oh yeah, the Wiimote's just not as good. It's not like the settings and stuff. They don't know how to set it up so that basically they can get a superior experience. And the fact of the matter is that if you tweak your Wiimote, tweak it really well, get the settings like the way you want them, you can actually get the Wiimote to be much better than the dual analog stick, both in aiming and versatility and stuff. So it is a superior input method, um, but you need to know how to do it. And a lot of these guys just jump in, they use the default settings or the default presets, and they find that it's either not sensitive enough or too sensitive. So this video here is to basically explain to you what all the settings do, so that you can go through, use one of those presets as a base, and then you can tweak it from there to get it the way you want it to feel. As another preset, I'll be giving my settings in the description below. I've made a video a while ago of my settings, and they haven't changed much since then. In fact, they've only changed very, very minimal. So you can try, go ahead and try those settings and then sort of tweak it if you like from there. But let's get started. Look, the first thing I'm going to talk about is horizontal turn speed, because that's the first option we get. And probably should spell bird's eye view properly. And let's say we're looking at like the map or something from a bird's eye view, so from an overhead view, and this is our player and he's facing forward. So horizontal speed will just basically determine how fast it takes to do a turn. That's horizontal speed. Now, when we've got horizontal speed maxed out, then we'll do that turn fairly quickly. If it's set to like very low, like 1 or 2 or whatever, then it'll take a while to do that turn. So it just determines how fast it is for us to turn. And that's it. That's pretty much horizontal speed. The next option is horizontal speed aimed down the sight. Again, it's pretty much the same deal, except it's for when we're aiming down the sight rather than hip firing. That's pretty much it. Now, the option that comes next is the vertical turn speed, and for illustration, I'll draw like a TV screen, and I'll have our cursor in the center. And basically, vertical turn speed just determines how fast we turn or look up and down. So it's the same deal. It's sort of like horizontal turn speed, except we're just interested this time in the up and down segment of it, and that's it. Again, we've got the two options: aim down the sight and just regular. It's the same sort of deal there as well. Okay, so the next one is dead zones, and this one's actually really important. Okay, now dead zones are they're like an invisible box or an invisible area on the screen. Okay, and you don't see this normally during gameplay, but for the purpose of when you're actually tweaking them, they do show up and they'll show them on the screen. So it's an invisible area of the screen. But basically, what it does is it says that whenever your cursor is in that area, anywhere in that area, the screen won't turn. Okay, so it's a dead zone. It just doesn't turn. And so in any of these cases here where our cursor is in any of these positions, the screen will always be focused straight. It won't be turning at all. Okay, because it's inside the dead zone. Now, if we move our cursor outside of that dead zone, so as we start to move outside, so up until this point we haven't moved. Now, as we start to move outside of the dead zone, our screen starts to turn right. Okay. Similarly, as we start to move outside of the dead zone upwards, our screen will start to turn up. Okay. Um, this is where the next option I want to talk about is it's called camera sensitivity. So camera sensitivity will determine um, how fast we actually start turning when we leave our dead zone. So up until this point, we're not turning. If we max out camera sensitivity, then what that is saying is that we want to reach our maximum turn speed as soon as we get out of the dead zone. So we get out of the dead zone here, we're reaching our maximum turn speed straight away. Okay, and that maximum turn speed is basically the same, is like determined by your, in this case, the horizontal turn speed or horizontal speed. And that's pretty much it. Now, if we set our camera sensitivity to 0, then it's saying that our camera is like not sensitive at all. In other words, we need to get all the way to the very edge of the screen to reach our maximum turn speed. And the thing is, as we get further and further away from the dead zone, our screen will start to turn faster and faster and faster. So it'll accelerate as we get further away from the dead zone. That's with our That's with our camera sensitivity set to 0. Whereas, like I just said earlier, if it's set to if it's set to maximum, then we'll reach our maximum turn speed as soon as we leave the dead zone. And then no matter how far away we move our cursor, it'll always be the same speed. It'll just be the maximum speed. So it won't accelerate. It'll just be always at the top speed, and that's it. So that's how dead zones and camera sensitivity work together. Okay, the next one I want to talk about just quickly is cursor sensitivity. Okay, now let's say that this is my cursor in real time right now on the screen. Okay, when I have my cursor sensitivity set to 0 or as low as possible, basically my cursor won't be very sensitive to movement. So it'll just kind of be in the center like this, and you can see it's moving a very little bit every now and then, and that's it, because I can hold my hand pretty still and it's just sitting there. Now, if I maximize my camera sensitivity, cursor sensitivity, you'll see that my cursor is more sort of it's more like sensitive to movement of my hand. So as I'm breathing, my hand's moving and it's picking up those small movements. Okay, so it's literally just a measure of how sensitive the cursor is to movement, and that's it. That's what cursor sensitivity is. Okay, next one on the list is cursor speed. Okay, now cursor speed, to test this one, it's you need to sort of test it yourself. It's very hard to do on like a screen or a tutorial because it's related to real life. Like it's actually related to how much I can't write. It's related to how much your hand movement actually moves in real life. So we want a dead zone. We want to set all of our dead zones to max to test this one. So we'll have like an area of the screen here, our dead zones. That wherever we move the cursor inside this dotted box, our screen won't be moving. So we want to set the dead zones to max, and then we want to like get our cursor and move it into this corner here, and then we want to move the cursor over to this corner here. Okay, and we want to do that when our cursor speed is set to maximum, and then when our cursor speed is set to minimum. And you'll notice that whenever your cursor speed is set to maximum, you don't have to move your hand as much to actually move from this point here to this point here. Whereas when it's set to the lowest point, you actually have to move your hand around quite a bit to go from this point to this point. So that's pretty much what cursor speed is. It just determines how much you have to move your wrist or your hand to move the cursor on the screen. And that's it. So I'm not going to talk about the next two options are like scope sensitivity and turret sensitivity, but I'm not going to bother talking about those because I don't really know how they work because I haven't really used them that much because I don't use scopes or turrets. In multiplayer, there's only one turret on Modern Warfare 3 and I'd never use it anyway. And when I use scopes and stuff, I just use the ACOG. So I don't really know much about the scope sensitivity. So maybe you want to sort of muck around and play around with that one yourself a bit to familiarize yourself with how it works. But that's pretty much it. You guys have now have the tools to sort of customize and set up the ultimate control scheme for the Wiimote. And like I said, if you set it up properly, you can actually get a much better, much more accurate control system and input method than dual analog sticks. So that's pretty much it. Get to what are you doing? Still watching this video? Go set up your Wiimote. Go pwn some nubs and have fun. Thanks for watching, guys.